My boyfriend cheated with my boss when I got him his dream job. I pulled every string to get him hired at my company. I vouched for him, trained him, protected him. Then he turned around, started trashing me to our team, and had an affair with my manager, the same one who suddenly put me on a performance plan. When I got laid off, they posted matching Instagram captions, "Power couple energy." Now I'm building something of my own and I have the receipts. I still can't believe I'm writing this. I've rewritten the first line like 3 times because every version sounds too dramatic, even for me. But no, this actually happened. I got my boyfriend a job at my place, and then he got me fired after cheating on me with my boss. So let me back up. His name is Trevor, or as I now refer to him, try hard with a god complex. We'd been dating for 3 years when all this started living together, sharing a Costco membership, the whole grown-up couple starter pack. He'd been unemployed for almost a year after getting laid off from a tech startup. And yeah, it was hard. Watching someone you love spiral, telling themselves they're worthless, while simultaneously refusing to take a retail job because it would look bad on LinkedIn. I carried us through that year financially, emotionally, and sometimes literally when he threw his back out stress gardening. But when an opening came up at my company, I saw a lifeline. It was in marketing, his field, his skill set. I told him I'd coach him through the application process, introduce him to the team, even put in a referral. I remember him looking at me like I'd just handed him a winning lottery ticket. "You believe in me more than I believe in myself," he said. God, that line hits different now. I worked at a mid-sized PR firm in Chicago. Very Devil Wears Patagonia. I was a senior account manager, been there 5 years, and I knew the ropes. My boss, Alana, was the kind of woman who made resting boss face look like a weapon. She wore stilettos to brainstorms and could reduce a client to tears with a single raised eyebrow. Intimidating? Absolutely. But I respected her, looked up to her even. She always talked about how women in this industry needed to help each other rise. Turns out she just meant on top of my boyfriend. Anyway, Trevor nailed the interview. Of course he did. I prepped him like I was training a TED Talk finalist. He started in late January. At first, everything felt like a win. He was finally working again. We'd take the L to the office together, do lunch runs. I even helped him set up his email signature. It felt cute, like we were in a sitcom montage. But around March, things started getting weird. Subtle at first. Trevor got secretive about his calendar. Alana started calling him Trev in meetings. She never called anyone by a nickname. He started staying late more often, saying he was getting up to speed. But somehow, I felt like I was the one falling behind. I tried to brush it off, told myself I was being insecure. Until the night I stayed late to finish a client deck and walked into the break room at 8 p.m. to find them laughing like, full belly laughing over takeout Thai. She was sitting on the counter. He had soy sauce on his tie. They didn't even flinch when I walked in. That was the first night I felt it in my gut. Something was very, very wrong. 2 weeks after that late night break room scene, Alana scheduled my quarterly performance review. Nothing unusual except she moved it to a Friday at 4:30 p.m., which was already a red flag. No one wants feedback when they're mentally halfway into their weekend margarita. I remember sitting in the glass-walled conference room, legs crossed, notepad in hand, heart hammering like I already knew. And maybe I did. Alana came in 15 minutes late, her iced coffee still half full, wearing that lipstick she always put on when something was about to go down. Chanel red flag, number 5. She didn't waste time with small talk. "I've been reviewing your client outcomes from Q1, she said, flipping open her sleek leather folder. "And while your numbers are solid, there's a recurring concern about leadership presence." Leadership, presence, what even is that? I'd led 2 of our biggest client wins last quarter, had 0 missed deadlines, 0 client complaints, but apparently, someone thought I wasn't giving off strategic energy. I asked for specifics. She dodged, said I tend to lead with emotion, and that junior staff feel unsure when I'm not confident. It felt like she was reading from a Pinterest board titled, "How to Gaslight a Woman Out of a Promotion." I sat there stunned, numb, nodded, like a good little employee, jotted down the feedback like it wasn't completely subjective and low-key sexist. Then she ended with the real gut punch. "We're considering restructuring your team. You'll report to a different manager next quarter, Trevor?" I blinked. "Trevor? As in, my boyfriend Trevor?" She tilted her head like she'd forgotten. "Oh, right. That must be awkward." I went home and cried so hard I gave myself a migraine. Trevor found me curled up on the couch and actually had the audacity to act surprised. "She's just tough on everyone," he said, rubbing my back with those same hands that apparently were good enough to earn him a promotion in 2 months. "But you're reporting to her," I whispered. He paused. "Well, not anymore, technically. That night I didn't sleep. Something cracked wide open inside me. All the nights he was too tired to talk. All the times he deflected questions about work. The way his phone never left his pocket anymore. And suddenly, I remembered a tiny stupid detail. The week before, I'd used his laptop to book our flights for my cousin's wedding. When I opened the browser, there was a draft email in Gmail, addressed to Alana. Subject line, "Need to talk before she finds out." I hadn't thought much of it at the time. But now, it felt like a live wire. I was done doubting my gut. I used to think people who snooped through their partner's phone were just insecure, unstable, a walking red flag. But then again, I also used to think my boyfriend wouldn't weaponize my loyalty to sleep his way into a promotion. So, yeah, that version of me, dead and buried. It happened the following Tuesday. Trevor was in the shower, whistling, carefree, like he hadn't just been handed my career on a silver platter. His phone was on the nightstand, screen face up, no passcode. He trusted me. Cute, right? My hands were shaking, but I picked it up anyway. Told myself I'd only scroll for a minute, just long enough to put this sick feeling in my chest to rest. It took 11 seconds. There was a text thread with a contact saved as A. Not Alana, just A. Like he thought that was subtle, like I wouldn't know. The messages weren't overtly flirty, but the subtext was practically screaming. Alana, got the client to approve your pitch deck. Told you were a star, Trevor. Only because my lucky charm was in the room. Alana, we still on for drinks Friday? My place, not the office. This time I scrolled further. Messages going back months. Talk of getting things in place. Her coaching him on how to position himself as more valuable than me. Literal strategy sessions to chip away at my credibility with the higher ups. And then, the one that shattered me. Trevor, once she's out, I'll be free to fully step into the role. Not once she leaves. Not if she gets another offer. Once she's out. I didn't cry. Not right away. I felt hollow, like every ounce of my love for him had been sucked out through the screen. I took screenshots, all of them, emailed them to myself, then deleted the email from his sent folder. By the time he walked out in a towel, I was back in bed, eyes closed, pretending to nap. He kissed my forehead and asked if I wanted takeout. I mumbled maybe and stared at the ceiling as he left the room. I didn't eat that night. I couldn't, but I did start plotting. They thought I was out of the way. Disposable, just collateral damage on their climb to the top. But they forgot one thing. I built this place. I trained Trevor. I covered Alana's mistakes. And now, I had the receipts. You ever feel your soul leave your body, but not in a bad way? More like, you're watching yourself become someone else. Someone colder, smarter, stronger. That was me the moment I opened my work laptop and started my own kind of HR file. I created a new folder called Client Resources, innocuous enough to keep anyone snooping off the scent. Inside, a private Google Doc labeled with a random account number. That's where I started dropping everything. Screenshots, time-stamped Slack messages, notes from one-on-one meetings, audio clips from voice memos I'd secretly started recording during late-night work calls, with Alana calls, where she suggested I soften my tone with male clients, or rethink my messaging to avoid sounding too emotional. And then I did what any scorned woman with a marketing degree and a slowly imploding life would do. I got methodical. For 2 weeks, I smiled through every team meeting. I laughed at Trevor's dumb office jokes. I shared fun facts about our clients and acted like I hadn't read his messages calling me a sentimental liability. At home, I baked banana bread. I let him spoon me while watching The Office. I even pretended to be happy when he told me he was being considered for a leadership pipeline program. That one almost made me choke on my Pinot. But the piece de resistance? I reached out to a client, Jamie, from our biggest account and scheduled coffee. Jamie had always liked me, trusted me. More importantly, Jamie hated bullshit. I didn't tell her everything, just enough, like how Trevor had taken credit for a presentation I built solo, or how Alana had changed the narrative to make it seem like I was emotionally volatile, when really, I was the only one flagging issues that could have tanked the campaign. I kept it professional, just a concerned heads up. Jamie nodded a lot, didn't say much. But 3 days later, our client services Slack lit up with a message from Jamie to Alana, CCing half the executive team. Given recent revelations, I'd prefer to work exclusively with Sabrina going forward. Let me know how we can adjust, y'all. The silence in that Slack channel? Deafening. Alana replied with a tight, "Of course, we'll accommodate your request." And just like that, the first crack in their power tower appeared. All I had to do was wait for the collapse. I knew Alana would panic. And Trevor? He always unraveled when his ego was threatened. I didn't have to blow anything up. They were already holding the match. So, picture this. It's a Monday morning, one of those weirdly quiet ones where even the printer sounds aggressive. I'm in early on purpose, pretending to organize samples in the supply closet, aka the office gossip vortex. I wasn't hiding. Okay, maybe I was, but I had a reason. Alana and Trevor had scheduled a touch base before the rest of the team got in, because apparently they'd forgotten that sound travels, especially when the walls are thin and someone is quietly holding their breath beside the copier. I heard everything. Alana, what did you say to Jamie? She's pulling back her Q3 budget. This could tank the whole pipeline. Trevor, I didn't say anything. I thought you handled it? Alana, handled it? She requested Sabrina directly. Do you understand how bad this looks? Cue some paper rustling. Frustrated sighs. Then Trevor, this man had the nerve, says, maybe this is for the best. Honestly, I think we moved too fast with the whole situation. The way my jaw dropped in real time. Then Alana says, you begged me to help you get ahead, and now you're bailing because the optics changed. Their voices dropped lower after that, but the tension? You could have bottled it and sold it as corporate drama cologne. I waited until they stomped off in opposite directions, neither noticing me behind the door, surrounded by highlighters and broken staplers, and smiled. Because that conversation, it meant the cracks were spreading. I spent the rest of the day doing what I do best, quietly outperforming everyone. I looped in other clients, picked up the slack Trevor dropped, acted like the loyal team player while he scrambled to do damage control. Every meeting, I could feel him watching me, not with love, not even with guilt, but with fear. He knew, somewhere deep down, he knew I wasn't just surviving. I was setting the stage. And then came the company-wide email from the CEO. Subject line, leadership changes, effective immediately. I opened it with a shaking hand. Effective this week, Alana H. will be transitioning out of her role as Director of Accounts to pursue other opportunities. No mention of Trevor. Not yet. But her transition wasn't a resignation. It was a removal. Word spread fast, clients were unhappy, retention was down, and leadership needed to clean house. But here's the part that still gives me chills. AVP I'd barely spoken to before pulled me aside that afternoon and said, we've been watching how you handled everything. It hasn't gone unnoticed, y'all. They were watching me. Not her, not him, me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rising. Trevor didn't take Alana's transition well. The Monday after she was ousted, he came into work with the fake chill of a man desperately clinging to a narrative. AirPods in, coffee in hand. But his eyes were darting, searching, calculating. It was the first time in months he'd asked me if I wanted to grab lunch. I said I had a client call. I didn't. I just needed him to know the dynamic had shifted. That week, he got weird. Not just awkward off, like a car that keeps stalling at green lights. He started overcompensating, bringing in donuts for the team, volunteering for projects he wasn't qualified for, offering ideas during meetings that were clearly just recycled versions of things I had already suggested. Worse, he kept lingering by my desk, making these vague, desperate comments like, I know things have been weird, but I never wanted you to get caught in the middle. You're the only person who really gets me in this place. We were a good team, weren't we? I just blinked at him, smiled, said funny. That's not how it felt. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Good. Because the more his facade cracked, the more mine solidified. By Friday, the office grapevine was ablaze. Alana's exit was tied to multiple HR complaints. Several clients were quietly shifting accounts back to me. And Trevor? Well, word was, leadership was reassessing his fit for long-term growth. Which brings us to Friday night. Trevor came home late, reeking of whiskey and failure. I was on the couch, laptop open, casually working on a freelance proposal I hadn't told him about. I could feel him watching me from the hallway, unsteady, silent, like he was rehearsing something. He finally said, I don't know what's happening anymore. Everything's falling apart. I closed my laptop, looked him dead in the eye. That's what happens when you build your career on someone else's back. He opened his mouth, but I wasn't done. I gave you everything, Trevor. I opened the door. You kicked me out of the room, so cry about the consequences somewhere else. I went to bed after that, left him standing in the dark living room, alone with his unraveling. The next morning, I got a text from HR. Are you available Monday morning for a confidential discussion? Buckle up, babe. The storm hasn't even peaked yet. Monday morning came, and for once, I dressed with intention. No more muted business casual. I wore a soft black blazer, bold lipstick, and heels that clicked just loud enough to say, I'm not the one. If they were calling me in for a confidential discussion, I wanted to make sure they remembered exactly who they were dealing with. Turns out, they weren't just interested in talking to me. They were interested in listening. The HR director, Camille, a woman who usually smiled like everything was fine, even when it wasn't, closed her office door and said, "We're aware of recent dynamics involving your former manager, and we've received concerning reports regarding Trevor." I didn't even flinch. I just sipped my coffee and said, "Would it help if I provided context?" 30 minutes later, I'd laid it all out. The messages, the manipulation, the performance review from hell, the sudden promotions, the whispers, the gaslighting. I kept it factual, unemotional, but I didn't spare a single detail. When I was done, Camille leaned back and said something I'll never forget. "We've had our suspicions, but we needed confirmation from someone we trusted." That word, trusted. I felt something click inside me, like all the self-doubt, all the late nights crying into my pillow, all the gaslight-induced anxiety had just expired. I left her office feeling weightless. But the real twist? I wasn't even the only meeting on Camille's calendar that morning. Because as I was heading back to my desk, I passed conference room B. The door wasn't fully closed. And inside, Trevor, sitting across from another HR rep, pale, slouched, the energy of a man who knows he's lost the game, but is still pretending he has a card to play. I paused just for a second, just long enough to hear him say, "Look, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. This all just escalated." She knew what she was doing too, that she wasn't me. It was Alana. He was trying to spin it now, to paint himself as the victim of a powerful, manipulative boss. Classic narcissist strategy: deny, deflect, downgrade. But here's what he didn't realize. The paper trail didn't lie, and I was done playing small to protect a man who weaponized my kindness. I walked past the door, didn't even bother looking in, just kept walking, one foot in front of the other, chin up, eyes forward, let them unravel. By Friday, it was official. Trevor's name was scrubbed from the team directory. His Slack status went from "in a meeting" to that cold, final gray dot. The email came through around 2 p.m. "Trevor L. is no longer with the company. Please direct all client communications accordingly." No drama, no goodbye party, no forwarded farewell message with a fake, cheerful, keep in touch vibe, just a quiet deletion. And I won't lie, I stared at that email longer than I should have. Not because I missed him, God. No, but because it felt surreal. This man had sat across from me on countless nights, eating pasta I cooked, binge watching our comfort shows, letting me believe we were building a life together. And now, he was just gone. From my workplace, from my world. And I was still standing. That night, I got home to find his key on the counter. No note, no explanation, just the key. And a single cardboard box missing from his side of the closet. He took exactly what he came with. Not much. I waited for a wave of grief, the kind that makes you question everything, your judgment, your worth, your ability to ever trust again. But it didn't come. What did come was this unexpected clarity. Like I'd finally stepped out of a fog I hadn't realized I'd been living in. I called my best friend Amelia, told her everything. Every detail I'd been too embarrassed to say out loud during the spiral. She came over with wine and Thai food and, bless her, a literal PowerPoint presentation titled, "The Ultimate Post-Trevor Glow-Up Plan." Step 1. Deep clean the apartment. We burned the old bed sheets. I'm not even kidding. Step 2. Update the resume. Not because I needed a new job, but because I'd finally admitted to myself I deserved better than that company. Better than fighting uphill for recognition, while people like Alana and Trevor leapfrogged off my work. Step 3. Reclaim my power. So I did. I applied to 3 dream jobs that night, companies I'd been too scared to reach for before. The kind of roles I used to think were too advanced or too bold. I sent each one with confidence, because suddenly, I believed in the version of me that Trevor always tried to dim. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Jamie, my ride-or-die client, saying, "If you're ever looking for something new, let me know. I'd hire you in a heartbeat." I smiled. Not the kind of smile you fake when people say you're better off while you're still crying in the bathroom. A real one. Because I was better off. 2 weeks post-Trevor, I walked into a corner office on the 31st floor of a downtown building I'd passed 100 times, but never dared dream I'd step inside. It was an interview, but it felt more like a moment. The company? A creative agency known for bold campaigns, a progressive culture, and women in actual leadership positions who didn't just talk about empowerment, they embodied it. The role? Senior strategy lead with a clear growth path. The vibe? Electric. I wore a navy suit that made me feel like the main character and carried a leather portfolio stuffed with results, ideas, and just enough quiet rage to fuel a revolution. My interviewer, Simone, was a powerhouse, late 30s, no-nonsense energy, the kind of woman who probably drinks her coffee black and takes zero BS. She glanced at my resume and said, "Tell me about your last role." I didn't flinch. I told her the truth. Not every gritty detail, but enough. I told her how I built out campaign strategies that brought in multi-million-dollar accounts, how I managed egos and damage control and still delivered results, how I mentored junior staff, because I remembered what it felt like to be overlooked, and how, when things got political, I didn't fold. I outlasted. Simone watched me for a long second, then nodded. "You sound like someone who's done more than your title ever reflected." She got it. By the time I walked out, I didn't even care if I got the job. I felt powerful just for finally owning my value, not apologizing for it, not dumbing it down, not padding it with words like "I think" or "maybe" or "just." But then the email came 2 days later. Subject: "Welcome to the team body. We're thrilled to have you. Offer letter attached." I cried. Not the messy kind I did on the bathroom floor after Trevor gaslit me into thinking I was too intense for asking why his boss texted at 11 p.m. No, these tears were quiet, relieved, victorious. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't climbing someone else's ladder. I'd built my own damn staircase, and I was finally walking up it. Then it happened when I least expected it, like most twisted plot twists do. 3 weeks into my new job, I was finally starting to feel normal again. Happy even. I had a desk with a view, co-workers who actually collaborated, and a boss who thanked me for my ideas instead of stealing them. I'd even started sleeping through the night without clenching my jaw. Healing, it turns out, happens in layers. Then, on a random Thursday after work, I decided to swing by the Trader Joe's near my old apartment. Pure muscle memory. I was browsing the cheese section, completely engrossed in debating goat versus Gouda when I heard someone say my name. "Sabrina?" I turned, and there he was, Trevor, looking like a thrift store version of who he used to be. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing that same tired jacket I begged him to replace last winter. His cart had a frozen pizza, a six-pack, and nothing else. It was a perfect metaphor. For a second, we just stared at each other. Him, wide-eyed. Me, unreadable. Then he smiled. That crooked, boyish smile he used to flash when he forgot to do the dishes. The one that used to melt me. Not anymore. "I've been meaning to reach out," he started, voice a little too rehearsed. "Just didn't know if you'd want to hear from me." I tilted my head. "What could you possibly have to say?" He swallowed, looked down. I messed up. 3 words. 1 lifetime too late. I was overwhelmed. "I didn't know how to handle a girlfriend who supported you." I cut in, keeping my voice low and level. "A career you didn't earn? A boss you slept with to climb a ladder I built?" He winced like I slapped him. But I wasn't here to comfort him anymore. "I lost everything," he muttered. "No," I said, stepping past him toward the checkout line. "You gave it away." I didn't look back. Not when he said my name again. Not when I heard him sigh, like the weight of consequences finally hit. Because here's the thing about closure. You don't get it from the person who broke you. You give it to yourself when you walk away head high, spine straight, future wide open. And as I scanned my block of Gouda and tapped my card, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free.